at one of my favorite places in downtown Laramie, the Altitude Chop House and Brewery. We're going to be talking to Nathan about some great brews and Sean about some great eats. Let's go inside and see what they have to offer. I'm here today with Nathan Vinner from Altitude Chop House and Brewery here in Laramie. Hi Nathan, how are you?
Levi, great, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're happy to be here. We're here today to talk a little bit about your brews that you make and what you got going on in the restaurant. Tell me a little bit about your process that you use here.
Well, the process here at Altitude is this is an all-grain system. So in Beer 101, basically is we're mashing grain and water into this tank right here. Mm-hmm. And when we mix that up, it creates a sugar water that we strip off and boil and add hops to. And hops are really the spice of beer. They're one of the things that they can add some real neat citrus and floral and sometimes woody and resiny type flavors to a beer. And we add those in during the boil. We cool it down at a unique signature yeast strain, and the yeast is really the Oompa Loompas of the whole thing. It takes over and ferments the beer, and that's about an 8-hour process to get the yeast into the beer, and then it's about another 8 to 10-day process after that.
For the fermentation.
For the fermentation, and all the beer that we have on draft, we've made here at Altitude. We do about 750 barrels a year, and we run 8 regular beers at all times, and then with the 4 seasonals that rotate throughout the year, we probably do close to 18 different types of beer throughout the year from our taps.
Here at Altitude, you guys are going green. Why don't you tell me a little bit about your change in process?
Well, one of the things we found that when we're using chemicals to clean, and first of all I want to say that the inside of all these tanks have to be kept pristine so that there's no interference with wild yeast or bacteria, that all the fermentation that takes place in a very clean sanitary environment. We found that when we used chemicals to clean, it took a lot of water to rinse the chemicals. So we stopped using chemicals all the time and started to use hot water as a method of pasteurization and cleaning instead. And what that does is it eliminates all of the bacteria and wild yeast that might want to compete with the yeast that I'm using to make beer. And we're using less chemicals, so we don't have to use the water to rinse, and as a result, we're saving almost 1.5 to 2 barrels of water per beer made.
Now, your cooking process, does it all occur up here in the brewery? Or?
It does. In fact, behind you is the kettle, and we can get to that in a little bit, but one of the major processes is the saccharification process, which takes place right here in this kettle, where the grain is mixed with water, and we have to watch the temperature and the pH to get the proper kind of sugar for the intended beer style. But a major part of we don't really cook it, but a major part of the heating process of the grain takes place right here in the mash tun.
Now, you were saying, do you guys, when you filter, do you do any sort of filtering?
We do not. We've never filtered a beer here at Altitude. Everything is naturally clarified by time and temperature. We just let those, and we do throw some dichotomous earth into the beer, but we're not using any animal products to clear the beer, and we're not using any kind of filtration system either. Everything becomes clear on its own with the gravity, basically clears it out for us.
That's interesting. Do you do any fermentation up here, or is that in different
This
tanks?
is, in fact, behind the camera are our fermentation tanks, and this time of year, for about 6 months out of the year, they're always full. And I'm always hoping that one of them gets empty so I can refill it back up with beer. But the fermentation is taking place actually behind the camera right now.
Excellent, that's interesting.
And all these fermentation tanks, the temperature is controlled the whole time. So some beers I want them, around 55 degrees, 50 degrees for a lager. Some beers I want them as high as 74 degrees, and I can actually control the temperature on each of these fermentation tanks.
Tell me about some of the awards that you guys have won with your brews.
Well, this year, 2010, has been an exceptional year. We won 3 medals at the North American Beer Awards. We won 3 medals at the Lander Beer Festival. We won 2 in Cheyenne. We won 1 in Jackson. So that this year we've won 9 awards, but in the last 3 years we've actually won 18 awards over 3 years, which has just been a lot of fun to be a part of over the last few years, and 4 of those have been on the national level at the North American Beer Awards, which is a mostly Western regional competition with somewhere around 1,300 to 1,500 entries spread out over 20-some categories. So it's been really fun to be recognized as one of the top 3 in the categories that we're aiming for.
Yeah, that's really great. Do you have a brew that wins more than one on another?
Absolutely. The Mexican Chili Ale wins People's Choice, first place People's Choice, or second place People's Choice almost everywhere we take it. In fact, at one beer festival, people were only allowed to vote for pale ales, which was their favorite pale ale, but people liked our chili beer so much they voted for our pale ale, even though no one was really drinking it. So yeah, it's that popular that people will vote for it, even though they're not supposed to be voting for it.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Nathan, thanks for having us in.
Thanks for having me on your show. Really
bet.
appreciate it.
Here at Altitude Chop House and Brewery, we sure have learned a lot about their beers. Now it's time to wash down some great food with some of that award-winning beer. Now it's time to talk some food. I'm here with Sean Seaton, the head chef of the Altitude Chop House and Brewery. Hi, Sean. How are you?
Good. How you doing today?
Good.
How do you like Laramie?
I love Laramie. Tell me a little bit about some of your food you have here.
Well, we have a lot of different kinds of food. Everything from our beer battered pepper jack cheese sticks to bacon wrapped tenderloins.
Sean, tell me a little bit about your catering that you do.
We've been catering pretty much since the beginning. We cater small and large parties. Right now we're going to be catering up at the Wildcatter at the University of Wyoming Stadium. They just put some new suites up there and we got the bid, and we're just going to be catering beautiful food up there every game.
Tell me about, do you guys have any sort of weekly specials or anything?
We do different weekly specials. Usually it's more of I got this product that nobody else can get and I only got a certain amount of it, so we run a weekly special. And we also run dessert specials monthly.
Tell me a little bit about your desserts.
I have a pastry chef, her name is Stephanie Reed, and she just does the best desserts. One of our desserts, a little petite sweet for people that have a kind of a light after a meal. It's a cannoli dipped in chocolate with a ricotta and semi-sweet chocolate filling.
Sean, thanks. It sounds like you guys have a fantastic menu here, mixed with some great brews. Boy, I just really encourage everyone to come down and try out Altitude Chop House and Brewery. It's a locally owned establishment here in Wyoming that's been turning out great food since 1999.